أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Today I will begin where Imam alayhi salam discuss about injustice and existence of creator. Imam alayhi salam says that critics raise an objection as to how can it be ascertained that there is a creator and designer when we see in the life that the strong oppressing the weak while the weak is oppressed and is insulted. The virtuous is a prey to adversity and troubles, while the evildoers is healthy and wealthy. If there is a designer or a creator, all business would have been conducted regularly. The virtuous should have been well fed, and the scoundrels would have suffered deprivation. The strong would have been prevented from oppressing the weak. The evildoers would have received speedy retribution. The answer of Imam alayhi salam to this is humans have special merit of virtues which would have lost its value. The rest of the creation does not possess the merit of belief in the promises of rewards of the Almighty Allah and submitting to the discipline of righteous conduct. They, in that case, would have been like quadrupeds, like sheep and other animals, who are kept under control by the rod and the appeal to stomach. No one would have acted in accordance with the belief for eternal bliss. They would have been degraded from the level of humanity to that of animalism. No one would have cared to the spiritual blessings. The righteous person would have acted for merely the worldly possessions and abstained from oppressions and tyranny just for the fear of sudden chastisement. Despite all this, it is not wide off the mark. It is a fact that as people recognize the righteous do get of this world's resources of wealth, you also see that the evildoers are chastised in this world also when they exceed all bounds and people are harmed excessively by them, as the Pharaoh was drowned. Some evildoers are allowed a respite. Some virtuous people have their reward postponed to a later day. It does not falsify the design. As such affairs even take place, such affairs even take place in the regular in the rulers of the world. Even if half of the universe and what it contained were found to be disordered and disorganized, you can still not regard it as without purpose and design, since the second half is in a state of perfection and order. How can we admit such thing, seeing that everything in the universe is found on observation to be in the most organized order? Then Imam alayhi salam says, I wonder at those people who overtook the error in the medical knowledge, which is so faulty, but call into the question the universal order, which is flawless. Then Imam alayhi salam talks about how the atheists demand to see God with their physical eyes, the existence of God. The God, one who is inscrutable even to the intellect. This being impossible, they took to flat denial of his existence. They demanded why he cannot be encompassed within the intellect. Imam alayhi salam says, Almighty Allah transcends intellect, just as things beyond the visual field cannot be perceived by the eyes. As an example, if you see a piece of stone flying up in the air, the logical conclusion you draw is that someone has thrown it above. The eye may not have seen it, and yet the intellect realizes it because of its discerning capacity, that the piece of stone cannot go up by itself. You see that the eyes stopped at a point and could not see further. Similarly, the intellect stops short at its prescribed limit. It cannot advance further. Another example Imam alayhi salam gave is about mind and soul. We say man possesses mind and soul, and yet no one has seen the mind with the physical senses. The same intellect should be able to realize and admit the existence of the Creator without being able to perceive his essence. From one point of view, therefore, he is manifest and hidden from none. From the other point, he is hidden out of the reach of human senses. It is the same with intellect. It is known by argument and evidence, but its essence is a mystery. Then Imam alayhi salam talks about how the atheist then asks as to why the Almighty Allah has laid obligation on the puny man to acquire cognizance of him by his intellect, seeing that he cannot recognize him fully. The answer will be that the demand to recognize him is conditioned by the extent to which human intellect can possibly do, by the power it possesses. It is to believe in his existence and to obey his commandments and prohibition. They are not required to encompass all his attributes. Here, Imam alayhi salam gave an example of how no ruler requires of his subject to know the sovereign's stature or completion. All that is required is loyalty and obedience to the laws of the land. Supposing a man approaches the door of a royal palace to demand the ruler to present himself to him so that he may know him fully, else he would not obey him. He lays himself to an open accusation. Similarly, one who conditions his belief in the Almighty Creator with a full knowledge of his immanence offends the Almighty Allah. Then Imam alayhi salam says that they may ask as to why they are inadequate. The answer will be that the imagination cannot soar to the heights of magnificence. Even the cognition of inferior entities is beyond our compass. It's beyond our understanding. Imam alayhi salam gives example of sun and the difference of opinions among the researchers which exist at that time about its shape, volume, form, size. Intellect has been incapable of realizing the essence of the sun, which the eyes can see and the senses can recognize. Then how can Almighty Allah, Almighty Creator, essence be comprehended, which is beyond the pale of senses and hidden from the imagination? Then Imam alayhi salam says they may ask as to why he is hidden from the imagination. The answer will be that he is not hidden like one who may be behind the door or curtain from the sight of other men. When we say that the Almighty Allah is invisible to the eyes, we mean that his eminence is too fine for the imagination and physical senses to be comprehended. Just as the example, the soul is so fine, although it too is among one of the creation, and yet is beyond the compass of the imagination. If they now say as to why he is so fine, the answer will be that a creator of everything has to be superior to everything and distinct therefrom. Then Imam alayhi salam tells how the naturalist says that the nature does nothing meaningless nor leaves anything undone, which leads to the perfection of something and bears testimony to this. So they talk about evolution, they talks about adaptation, theory of adaptation and all this. So the answer to them will be, who has taught nature this ingenuity and knowledge of the limits of everything, not to transgress the perfect mean and to go beyond its capacity. Whereas this is a matter which intellect does not learn even after repeated experiments. Even after you do repeated experiments in the lab, you cannot acquire this intellect. If they say that the nature possesses omniscience and omnipotence, they thereby admit that they have denied for these are the attributes of creator, that he is omniscient and omnipotent. They name him the nature, they call this evolution. We call him almighty, we call him almighty, Allah almighty, omniscient and omnipotent. This whole ingenious creation is calling aloud that this universe is necessarily the handiwork of the creator who possesses great omniscience. Among the ancients, there were some who denied the purpose and design. They believed that the universe has come into existence spontaneously by sheer chance. Their argument was that sometimes infants are born disfigured contrary to the usual form, just as they may be disfigured by the addition of a finger or by unusual ugliness. They argued that the universe came into being without purpose and plan, that they have came into being spontaneously and through sheer chance. They asked as to why certain things have a perfect form while the others have an imperfect one. Imam alayhi salam says that the answer to this is to show that the nature too is under the control of a superior plan and ingenuity. This completes all sessions of this tradition. Imam alayhi salam says to Mufaddhal at the end that I have given a little of the sum total of knowledge and evidence of perfect planning and purpose as an argument, the perfect planning and purpose as an argument for the creation of the universe. Consider and ponder over this and learn lessons therefrom. Then Imam alayhi salam placed his hand on my chest. Mufaddhal says that the Imam alayhi salam placed his hand on my chest and said, remember all this and you will not forget it. Mufaddhal says, I fainted, and when I came to my senses, Imam alayhi salam says, O Mufaddhal, how do you find yourself now? I replied, with the help of my Lord, I am independent of referring to this book which I have penned. Everything is in my memory, as if I can make it out from the palms of my hand. Imam alayhi salam says, glory be to Almighty Allah, to whom is due all gratitude and praise as are deserved. O Mufaddhal, be perfectly at ease in your mind, brain, and reason. I shall, God willing, give you an account of the heavens and the earth and all things created by Almighty Allah as His wonderful creation and categories of hordes of angels, right up to the highest zenith and their ranks, together with all creatures, including the jinni and humans, so that you may know that what you have learned by now is only an insignificant part of the whole. You may go now. You have an honorable place near us, and such respect in the hearts of the believer as it is felt for the water when one is thirsty. Then Imam alayhi salam tells Mufaddhal, do not ask me what I have promised here, Here, Imam alayhi salam is referring to extended knowledge that he promised to give to Mufazzal. Do not ask me about what I have promised to you unless I feel myself inclined to speak to you thereof. Mufazzal then says, I returned from the Imam with a gift as no one else had ever received. Here I complete summary of this book. Thanks so much for all of you who has heard and give attention to this. At the end of this session, I request you to please recite a Surah Fatiha and present it to Imam Jafar Sadiq alayhi salam, and another Surah Fatiha for my parents and your marhumin. May Allah accept this service. Rabbana taqabbal minna innaka antas samiul alim. Allahumma salli ala Muhammadin wa ali Muhammad.